I'm a native of Kansas. I grew up in Kansas. My father was a United Methodist minister here in Kansas, so I connected with the mission of the institution. I grew up in Southwest Kansas. So all those things were attractive. At the time the job was advertised, I was working at a college called Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York. And I was the vice president for advancement, which means I was the chief fundraiser for that college. And it was a Catholic college and was always had a president who was a priest. So there wasn't really an opportunity for me to do anything further there.
Right.
So my wife and I began to talk about what might be next, and this job was advertised. And of course I knew a little about the college and knew a lot about this part of the country. So we applied. I mean, I think we both assumed I wouldn't get the job, but that you got to get started on getting turned down,
Right.
so you can get a job eventually. But the visit was really great. We felt very comfortable here, and it all worked out. Well, the enrollment of the institution has grown a lot, mostly by trying to broaden the definition of who we want to serve. When I got here, there were about maybe 700 undergraduates and 4 or 5 graduate students. The teaching was being done on this residential campus and at a couple of satellite professional studies centers for adults. My predecessor, Carl Martin, deserves a lot of credit for getting the professional studies program launched, although he didn't stay to see it flourish. He got it ready to go, and it did really take off. The enrollment of the college grew to about 1,800. We now have typically 300 or 400 graduate students. So we've kind of stretched out the range of who we serve. We've stretched out the ways we reach them. We now teach on this campus. We teach up in Wichita. We also teach online. We've expanded the kind of students we serve. We've made an effort to increase the diversity of the Winfield campus to bring in more persons of color, more international students. So I'm proud of that. We've had great support from alumni and friends of the college for the finances of the institution, so giving to the college annually has basically a little more than doubled, from about $2 million a year to, I guess it was almost $4.5 million last year.
Wow.
So that was good. I'm proud of the things we've been able to do with facilities. That's kind of an endless thing at a college. But the new stadium, the new Performing Arts Center, Cole Hall, renovation of Mossman Hall, the mound, the 77 steps. We've done a lot of things with good help from donors to keep the college in good shape. The next challenge is going to be building some new student housing, I think, and that'll be ready and waiting for the next president. Not too many things. I guess, you know, I made some mistakes in my first few years here just out of greenness and not knowing quite what I was doing. I mean, a lot of things, the first time you do them, you don't necessarily completely goof it up, but it's not artful, you know, it's not efficient. And so I learned a lot of things at the expense of this school. And, you know, I'm sorry for that, but that's just the way it is when you're starting in a new job. Nothing in particular comes to mind. I just, you know, when you work with so many people for so many years, you know that you are disappointing some of them. And I feel bad about that, but you know, it's not possible to make everyone happy in an organization of this size, although I wanted to. I wasn't always able to. Well, I love this place. I've given it almost all of my working life. I mean, it'll be 17 years when I leave. I'm sorry about that. My son, who's a senior in high school, was on track to come and be a student at Southwestern. He really grew up on this campus and was very comfortable with it. And I was looking forward to kind of seeing the college through his eyes, and now that won't happen. I feel sorry about that. I'm leaving a lot of wonderful colleagues and friends here, but it's not like I'm dying or they're dying.
Right.
You know, we'll stay in touch. It'll be fine. I have lots of reasons to come home to Kansas. My family, my mother and 2 of my sisters live in Lawrence, and I have a brother who lives in the Kansas City area. So we'll be back often. I guess 4 years ago, when my son was an 8th grader, we took a look at an opportunity at a school back east. We interviewed for the job. It didn't feel like a brilliant fit to me, and it didn't feel like it to them either. And so that didn't happen. And so we just said, okay, you know, the window was open there for 5 minutes, but now our son's in high school. We're not going to screw around with that. So we thought this will be the next year when we would take a look. So this is the only job for which I applied. Yeah, you know, I'm not sure. I don't know it that well. I mean, I studied as much as I could before the interview. My wife and I spent a day and a half there. I think, you know, what I see is they've done some pretty smart things in terms of introducing new programs that have a stronger career focus. It's traditionally thought of itself as sort of a liberal arts college, but they've added some programs now in engineering. They're getting ready to start a program in physical therapy. I think they're responding to the fact that parents and families are very concerned about how do we make this expenditure an investment that pays off. And so a connection to a firm career path is pretty important to a lot of families. So they've introduced some programs that build on that. They've begun to do a little bit of work with graduate programs. I think they're interested in trying to sort of cautiously keep extending the range a little bit. It's a strong school. They're in strong shape financially. And so they're in a position to make decisions, make investments, and wait for the investments to pay off. They've got some time to wait for a program to grow and become viable. So that's what I think that's what's awaiting me. Yeah. There won't be big ones. I mean, people here are very ready to be led. If they're just involved in the planning process and given a chance to feel like they participated in shaping the future of the place, they're good at sort of falling in and helping things move ahead, so that won't be hard. The board is really great. You know, I think there are going to be some challenges in Kansas because of difficulties with the state budget. Those challenges are going to impact the state universities far more than private colleges. But we also access some state money in the form of these Kansas comprehensive tuition grants that follow students into Southwestern, and I think that money that could wind up on the chopping block as the governor tries to clean up the deficit that's been created by these big tax cuts. So that could be a challenge for the next president. I think other than that, it's just figuring out the variety of jobs that come with being a president of a small private college. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts, and you have to just find the things you can be good at and try to excel at those and realize you can't do everything. You got to rely on other people. We have very good senior administrators here, so there's a good team ready and waiting for the next president.